Sally McManus, welcome to the program.
Great to be here, David.
So does this minimum wage rise make up for the cost of living spike that workers have already copped this year?
It doesn't make up for the cost of living spike that's happened since 2021, and that's really honestly how you've got to see it, and also what the Fair Work Commission considered. They were the arguments we were making since March 2021. Low wage workers, we're talking about 3 million Aussies, are still 4.5% where they were back then, because when inflation took off, their wage rises didn't keep up with it. So they made this decision based on the fact that they've got to keep up with inflation, but they've got to keep catching up to where they were back then.
Interesting. What do you think for small business, though, already facing higher interest rates and fuel costs, now this extra wages bill? Can you understand that this will hurt for some small business in particular?
Well, a few things about small business. First of all, they depend on consumer spending. Most small businesses do, right? And if you've got 3 million Aussies who have to cut back on things, obviously that's going to have an impact on businesses if people aren't going to spend as much because they can't. The second thing to consider is that all businesses can adjust their prices, usually, more often than workers can. So
should they? Should they adjust their prices as a result of this?
So they do. So we're behind. So workers are still behind where we were in 2021. Business isn't, right? Because they adjust their prices to catch up, or as we know, some of the big businesses during that inflation spike actually put up prices more than they needed to.
But there might be some small businesses who say they're not keeping up with where they were back then.
Well, there might be some, of course. There would always be some that would be in that situation. But listen, honestly, I've done this for 10 years and every single year I hear them say the same thing, that if wages go up at all, it doesn't matter if they're a smaller wage rise than they've ordered now, they say everyone's going to shut their businesses, we won't cope, etc., and it's never true.
Okay, but you are saying that it would be justified or not justified for some to increase prices because of today's decision?
Well, some do anyway. The impact.
But is it justified after today's decision?
It depends on the wage impact. So for a whole lot of businesses, the actual wage part of their business is not the majority, right? So there's a whole lot of things feeding into this at the moment. There's obviously energy prices, and I would say most businesses would say energy prices are a bigger input for them than actually wages. And also you need to keep your workers, and you want to make sure your workers can actually pay their rent.
Look, we're 3 weeks on from the budget. It's faced plenty of criticism. You called on Labor to make changes on negative gearing, capital gains tax, and they did. With the revenue they're raising from this, would you like more to be put back into the pockets of workers?
We would like to see that happen. We understand that the 250 that they've set up into the future.
This is the Working Australia tax offset.
That's it.
Yeah.
WACO or something.
WATO.
Yeah, WATO.
Yes.
Yeah, that it can be a mechanism to start rebalancing this, because the problem we're trying to solve is the fact that working people are paying more tax overall than people with capital. So,
but it's not enough on its own, that $250?
Not at the moment. It's a start, and so you've got to start making hard decisions to fix long-term problems. That's one long-term problem. The other long-term problem is obviously the housing affordability issue.
What about indexing tax thresholds, as the opposition is suggesting, to end bracket creep for workers altogether?
Well, I mean, this has been something that's been raised over a period of time. I would say this: when the coalition proposes that, they propose that, and then it's like, well, what's going to be cut? And so you've got to, if you're going to do that for workers, you do need to raise money elsewhere. If you don't do that, obviously you've got to cut, the public sector, and by that we're talking about Medicare, we're talking about, hospitals, we're talking about education, and we don't want to see, that's part of your overall wage, overall living standards. We don't want to see that cut.
Final issue, Sally McManus, you are an influential voice in the Labor movement. Where do you stand on AUKUS?
Well, the issue of AUKUS, first of all, in the union movement, we've got a united position on nuclear power, and we've actually had it since the 1980s that we oppose it. On the issue of AUKUS, there's a variety of views amongst unions on this matter. Do know that part of AUKUS was a promise of 20,000 jobs for workers in South Australia in the shipbuilding industry, and we don't yet know what the impact is out of this announcement yet. So we want a briefing from the government on this matter, because obviously, the issue of jobs was part of what a lot of unions were concerned about when it came to the issue of AUKUS.
So right now, are you on the fence about AUKUS?
We don't have a position. Like the ACTU
hasn't your position, long-standing ACTU position, been a nuclear-free defence policy?
Yeah. Nuclear defence policy,
So how does
that's
AUKUS
right.
and nuclear-powered submarines fit into that?
Well, the specifics of it, there was a whole argument about whether or not how this would work, where the nuclear power would be, about like what happens with the waste, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time we were arguing about those particular matters because always it's going to be safety that we're going to put first. And there was a lot of undertakings and safeguards built in around the safety issues because obviously we don't want to see radiation.
And they haven't been addressed yet?
They were addressed at the time. Now the issue is really what is happening with those jobs.
All right, so would you welcome a debate about this at next month's ALP National Conference?
Look, this is up to ALP delegates. I'm not a delegate there. And unions that are affiliated, half the unions, the ACTU, aren't affiliated to the Labor Party. I guess it probably will be a debate.
You wouldn't have a problem with that?
Not my business.
Would you have a problem with it though?
Not my business.
All right, we'll see what happens. Sally McManus, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.